Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Blue Economy Innovator Showcase Series. This is the second in a series of virtual events that Current and Chicago Next have been partnering on to feature the really exciting startups that are building technologies to solve the world's challenges in water. And we're so excited to have a wonderful group of participants on the line today. A couple of housekeeping items. You'll be joining this virtual discussion on mute because we've got over 50 people really excited to be a part of this discussion today. Please send your comments and questions for presenters into the chat function because we'll be able to answer some of those in the context of the presentations, and others, those folks will be able to follow up with you after the program is over today. So please make use of the chat function in Zoom. We'll be really excited to get a robust conversation happening there. Great. So my name is Elena Harkness. I'm the Executive Director of Current Innovation, and I'll be sharing more about our organization in a moment, but I just want to give you a rundown of the agenda in case this is your first Innovator Showcase series. In short, we're going to be doing brief introductions of Current and of Chicago Next, and then you're going to hear in rapid succession from 4 local innovators who are all building companies here in the Chicagoland region. And they're all doing different things. So the common thread here among the 4 companies you're going to hear from today is this local footprint and the fact that they are companies that are part of Chicago's blue economy, and we're excited to feature them here for that reason. So you're going to hear about a diverse array of solutions, and each one of them will be very quickly going through the problem in water they're trying to solve, why their solution is novel or innovative, and who they're trying to reach as they take their company to the next scale. So we'll go through each of those in turn. There will be very short time for Q&A for each presenter. And then at the very end of the conversation, we'll have a couple of brief next steps and ways that you can stay engaged. But this will all be recorded. You'll have a chance to go back and look at the recordings if you missed anything, and of course, to connect with any of these innovators after the discussion. So the idea today is to really have a rapid fire introduction to 4 companies that we think are doing great things in water. I'm going to give you a really brief introduction to Current and why we're excited to be co-hosting this event today. So Current is Chicago's water innovation hub. We are one of a number of water cluster organizations just like us here in the United States and also around the globe. All of us exist with some similar version of this mission statement to sort of kickstart and grow a blue economy. And what we mean by that is 2 things. One, it's the companies that are building innovative water technologies. And then on the other side, it's the industries that use them. So here today, you're going to be hearing from the folks that we think of on the innovation supply side of that equation that are helping to build solutions to the world's water challenges. Current was launched in 2016. We are a young startup nonprofit, and we're headquartered right here in Chicago, Illinois. So we've got this very local mandate to build the blue economy here in our city and our state. And we do that by building partnerships and trying to fill gaps between our utilities, the researchers and leading academic institutions that are building next generation R&D, industries, and the innovation community. We are a cross-sector connector, so you'll see that reflected by the folks that are on this call today and by the presenters that are part of this story. And we work by convening events like this one, making introductions, building connections, bridging the innovation gaps, and helping to develop pilots in real-world settings. This is a working slide for us, but we are really thinking about when we say building Chicago's blue economy, what do we mean? So I wanted to go a little bit deeper into this. On the demand side up top, these are the people that we think of as end users. It's industry, it's utilities, it's the energy sector. It's everyone who has a demand for innovative technology to think about how to use water better, to think about how to use it more effectively, manage that use, manage regulatory compliance, and generally steward this precious national resource as an input to our economy. And so you'll see across the top, it's a lot of different industries that we may not think about as water. It's food and beverage, heavy water users, hemp and textile, built environment, transit and energy. And it's also, of course, the utilities that we think of as kind of main users of water technology, some of whom may be in the room today. And on the supply side, it's the universities and research centers that are coming up with leading edge R&D and really pushing the frontiers of what we know about what works across an array of different areas in water. It's the entrepreneurs that are taking that R&D and bringing it to market to meet the needs of customers and to bring solutions to scale. It's the investors that are thinking about the pipeline, the deal flow, how to grow portfolio companies with a kind of shared focus on water and the blue economy. And it's incubators and other ecosystem partners like our friends at Chicago Next that you're going to hear from today that are also invested in building the innovation community here in our city and state. So I've just done a high-level view of this. Our blue economy is powered by partnerships. Current exists to nurture those partnerships. And you see here just some of the many partners that we engage with on a day-to-day basis, both in events like this one and in the actual pilot projects that we bring to life with our utility partners and out in our region. So we're excited to connect with you all here today and to focus on one really important pillar of our work, and that's highlighting the entrepreneurs that are growing our blue economy. One of our key partners in this work is Chicago Next, and I want to turn it over now to our friend and colleague, Eben Kyriakos, who leads Chicago Next efforts as part of World Business Chicago, and will talk to you about some exciting programs and opportunities to engage with Chicago Next. So Eben, over to you.
Thank you, Elena, and I want to thank Current for this wonderful opportunity to join this Innovator Showcase series. It's one of the many initiatives that we are doing to support our local entrepreneurs here in Chicago. And again, my name is Eben Kyriakos. I am the director of Chicago Next at World Business Chicago. If we can go to the next slide. World Business Chicago is the City of Chicago's economic development organization. We're a nonprofit public-private partnership that focuses on driving inclusive economic growth citywide. And that's specifically focused on how do we support business to scale and grow successfully in the city, and how do we support and how does the growth of those businesses lead to economic and job opportunities for Chicagoans. Chicago Next is WBC's dedicated initiative to drive inclusive growth and opportunity for our tech economy. We manage a portfolio of programs to really foster collaboration between the city and the tech community when it comes to tech economy growth. It's to ensure that the wide variety of partners is going in the same direction when it comes to growing our local tech and innovation ecosystem. I want to highlight why Chicago leads as a global hub for technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Most recently, PitchBook has done analysis showing that Chicago startups offer the best VC ROI in the nation, even beating San Francisco and Boston. While the deal volume is smaller in Chicago compared to those cities, we are seeing a really strong advantage of a thriving ecosystem that produces successful and sustainable startups that are growing. On the talent side, Chicago and Illinois universities are the second largest producer of STEM talent in the country, right after California. And so we have a very strong pool of highly technical STEM talent that's here to kind of fuel the next generation of economic growth. And when we look at industry, the third largest concentration of Fortune 500 companies, but a world-class corporate base that's invested in our tech community, invested in the innovation ecosystem. And that also includes our many world-class innovation hubs like Current, like M-Hub, like 1871, which was just recently ranked as the #1 private business incubator in the country. And I also want to highlight that this is very much aligned with Mayor Lightfoot's goals of ensuring that when we talk about economic growth, it's inclusive, that what we're doing is making sure we're doing everything through a lens of equity, diversity, and inclusion, and several initiatives that are focused on building a more inclusive tech economy with a very specific focus on how we can better engage underserved and underrepresented communities within our tech economy. People of color, women, military veterans, immigrants, and refugees. And so I really wanted to highlight and show that the city is very much committed in how to build a strong and dynamic tech and innovation ecosystem right here in the heart of the Midwest. Next slide. I want to highlight two programs that we're focusing on during COVID-19. One is Think Chicago, which is our national STEM talent attraction and retention program. We're really focused on supporting university students who are now exploring internship opportunities and job opportunities in a really difficult kind of job market. So if your company is hiring, please visit thinkchicago.net. we would love to partner with you. And we are putting together a resume book and scanning for students who are seeking opportunities in the tech economy and connecting them directly with companies who are hiring. So please visit thinkchicago.net to learn more. And I also want to highlight the Chicago Venture Summit, which is the city's flagship VC conference, one of the largest venture events in the Midwest. In the 2018 summit, we had 150 investment firms and showcased over 100 venture-ready Chicago startups. We were supposed to do the Venture Summit 2 weeks ago, and we are pushing it for September, but we're obviously following all the updates that are happening here in the state of Illinois and Chicago with large events. So for the latest updates, please keep up with chicagoventuresummit.com for all kind of future opportunities, especially during this COVID environment. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce, so much of the success of this series has been showcasing innovative entrepreneurs and their startups. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Nina Khoshredi, who's president of Ensaras. Nina?
Hi, thank you so much, Chicago Next and Current, for having me. I'm the president and founder of Ensaras, and we're a Champaign-based startup. The chief scientist is at our company is also a professor at the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana. And to get right to it, the US EPA reports that $271 billion in investments will be needed over the next 20 years in the to invest in wastewater infrastructure that's aging in our country. To say nothing of global markets, we know that 80% of wastewater goes untreated globally. And one of the ways that we can actually achieve some savings in wastewater is to look at the processes that treat wastewater and optimizing those processes, in particular with regards to energy and chemical consumption. We know that 3 to 4% of total energy in the United States goes towards water and wastewater utilities. And we know that equates to $4 billion per year in expenditures in energy alone. And in the wastewater treatment processes, about 40% of operational expenditures are towards aeration, energy consumption, of which 50% is aeration expenditure. So there's a great big opportunity to look at the energy savings and operational savings within wastewater treatment facilities and try to reduce those. And it's really critical in a time where we really are expecting more for less at our wastewater utilities in order to meet the demands of the future, given the aging infrastructure and such high investments needed to keep the systems running. With regards to wastewater treatment facilities, it just so happens that all this is happening at a time where there's a great brain drain in the industry. About half of all experienced wastewater treatment operators are eligible for retirement, and there's a lack of pipeline for new talent within the industry. And so the Ensaras AI wastewater stack, we can go to the next slide, is really designed to provide expert operational knowledge to wastewater operators. And it's built on 3 layers. The top layer is an analytics as a service platform that provides real-time energy and chemical consumption metrics to operators, as well as insights as to how to optimize these parameters within treatment processes. The next layer is a data analytics and artificial intelligence layer. And we've been quite fortunate as a company to have received many grants and awards to demonstrate our AI algorithms and machine learning algorithms in real world settings. We've worked with both small scale wastewater treatment systems for the US Army and large scale wastewater treatment systems such as the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District to demonstrate our proprietary AI algorithms for different real world problems. And finally, the backbone of our stack is a stack of physical sensors and smart sensors. We actually go into the system and decide what kind of sensors are needed and where they're needed in the process. And not only do we do that, but we actually provide the entire automation system for facilities. So the automation system and the analytics system seamlessly integrates. So our entire 3-stack system is currently being deployed in the first commercial deployment this year at a plant that's treating 2 million gallons per day of wastewater for reuse, non-potable reuse purposes. It's a membrane bioreactor facility, and it's expected to go online in fall of this year. Currently, we're we just finalized the automation system package for this facility, and the Analytics as a Service platform will go online in the fall of this year. We can go to the next slide. We're really targeting many different types of facilities, decentralized small community cluster systems, industrial wastewater treatment systems, and centralized municipal treatment systems. But our target customers have three things in common. The first thing is that we're targeting plants that are greenfield projects or upgrade projects. And the reason why we're targeting those customers is because it's very easy to justify sensors and automation system at that stage in a plant's journey, as opposed to existing facilities where even justifying the addition of one physical sensor requires getting on the annual budget and can be a uphill battle. So for our target market, it's definitely the greenfield and upgrade projects. Secondly, we're targeting advanced treatment processes. A lot of our projects in the pipeline are membrane-based systems where the energy and chemical consumption is a lot higher. And finally, we're finding a lot more traction in a design build procurement models where we get in at the design phase of the project and really work with the process, work in either with a design firm or a local contractor to help design the process and spec out the instruments at that phase of a project. So that sort of defines our target customer, although in the future we will be developing a solution for plants that are not going through an upgrade or being built from scratch. And basically at this point in our journey, we're looking for those who are interested in deploying our AI wastewater stack to reach out to me. My contact information is provided here in the last slide, and I'd be really happy to have any discussions with anyone interested in learning more about deploying our technology. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Nina. I'm wondering, oh, we've got a question from on the chat, and so would you be able to give us a case example about the savings opportunity? So what you deploy and what that ROI looks like?
Yes, so we are using a combination of expert wastewater treatment process knowledge and data-driven techniques. So we have a combination of process engineers who've spent over, combined 80 years experience designing wastewater treatment plants, plus expert machine learning and AI with our chief scientist from the University of Illinois. And so our target, what we think is realistically achievable based on the demonstration projects we've done, is a 20% energy and chemical savings at an average facility. And energy consumption can range anywhere from tens of thousands to over millions of dollars a year, depending on the size of the facility. So it's quite significant. And we're definitely looking at around a year or less of ROI based on those figures.
Great. Thanks so much, Nina. We are going to stay right on track here and move on to our next presenter, Shay Fabode, who's the CEO and the co-founder of Varuna Tech. Shay?
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I'll say a quick thank you to Current, and we'll just dive right in. My name is Shay Fabode, CEO and co-founder of Varuna, and at Varuna we like to say we're digitizing small and medium-sized water systems so they can deliver clean water to you and I. If you move to the next slide, please. This is not news to anyone who's on this call. Water quality problems in our drinking water systems are increasingly becoming a problem. Just over 42,000 water systems had violations in Q3 and Q4 of 2019, and over 53 million Americans were impacted by this. And we like to think of this as more flames than we care to admit. Common knowledge, if you move to the next slide. What is not so common is the clarity about what that problem is. We all like to point to infrastructure issues, but what we found as we did our customer development in the year and a half since we've been in existence is that there are inefficiencies within the operations of most of these small and medium-sized utilities. They have blind spots in their distribution network. Technicians make errors when they're entering data from the sample collection site you see on your left, and when they're inputting that information into a log, a physical log that is still written in pencil on your right. And these operational wastes, while we see them as water quality violations on the end, it's waste in terms of the money they spend. Next slide, please. And so what we've done is developed a node, that image you see on your left, that allows them to capture samples in real time. We focused on chlorine residuals to start. Capture samples in real time to start to make improved decisions, especially in locations that they previously couldn't pull power or get data from and had to send technicians to. Next slide, please. And this schematic here is a simple one. Current solutions cost the utility operator about 100,000 on the high end if they were to try to pull sensors that currently exist in the market into those locations that we've identified as maximum residence time sites, where they're most likely to have stagnant water. With the Varuna solution, and you notice there was a solar panel on top of it, we've made it standalone, zero integration into their current systems, or visibility where they didn't have it before, at a cost that's affordable to them. The next slide, please. And this simple metric highlights it. We're giving them 30% expense reduction because they now don't have to go to those locations. They see digital representations of their physical assets, which is 10x visibility than they had before, so they can manage flushing, reduce overdosing, and start to ensure at a cost that works for that size utility that you and I drink clean water. So if you move to the next slide. Jamel, my co-founder, and I have been in this industry, in the utility space, for a while. This is our second startup in the space, and we've put together a team that is familiar with the nuances of the industry, both as engineers, but also on the advisory team. To the next slide. And it's a simple business model, software as a service, because we believe in a few years, for the small water systems that are currently struggling, they need an operation system that recognizes their need, is fit for purpose, and allows them to serve the millions, and we believe thousands of utilities use our system in a few years to serve tens of millions of customers with clean water across the world. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And we have a question here on the chat. What kind of maintenance is required for the nodes, and are utility workers trained to perform it?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. Next to zero maintenance, so it's a reagent-less system, so they're not needing to go out to go replace membranes or anything of the sort. Or the battery packs are rechargeable, so the projections is that they last for a year, because we've right-sized solar panels to ensure that keeps going. And while we might need to do some physical calibrations if there's a problem in the system, we can calibrate remotely. And so we're taking the work of driving to those locations away from the technician, and they've been super appreciative of that.
Fantastic, thank you. And then
one more.
Yeah, we have a question for one more. We've noted that you've received support from Clean Energy Trust. Can you share more about the support you received on this journey from the incubators and investors that you've engaged?
Yeah, it's been a lot of it has been stress testing some of the assumptions we had by engaging with us and having us, again, go back to some of the customers to prove the value with tangible metrics. I'll say that's been the biggest assistance we've received from entities like that. And we also, from the incubators we've worked with, received some funding as well, which has been great. So yeah, that's the support.
Fantastic. Thank you for your presentation.
Thanks so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. We'll go to our next presentation. So we have Donato Ensaras, founder of Aquamox.
Yeah, hi, thank you. At Econo, we believe that everybody deserves a better alternative to prevent infections. And we are taking a different approach for the water problem. And the fact that we want to take water as itself and turn it into a very powerful sanitizer. Please, next slide. The problem is pretty obvious, especially nowadays that we're talking about COVID virus and things like that. But before even the COVID, there's still the problem of infections. From skin infection, food poisoning is a kind of infection, going to the hospital, and sometimes when things are getting bad, kind of side effects are leading to sepsis, which is a very fast degradation of the condition that leads to death relatively fast. Right now, the current solution, we believe they are inadequate, not only from the point of view of preventing infection, but also from the point of view of making sure that actually the water is not contaminated. These are actual chemicals that don't necessarily get destroyed, they go down the drain, who knows what. And many of those pass the point of the purification of the water. Many of these chemicals, of which 26 just a few years ago, the FDA has banned from over-the-counter consumer antiseptic products, have been banned because of lacking of evidence of being safe for human consumption. They can be endocrine disruptors, they can affect your hormonal levels. Can induce antiseptic resistance, so they can actually induce the resistance of the bacteria to become resistance, in fact, to other chemicals as well. And even worse, they become resistant to antibiotics, so that when actually you go to the hospital looking for to be treated with antibiotics, these bacteria don't react to the chemical, to the drug. And that's typical case of MRSA. And some of them are very inadequate. Probably nowadays you have learned more than you probably wanted to learn about sanitizers because of the COVID, but a lot of these chemicals require several minutes of action to be effective against these bacteria. Next slide, please. We have a solution that we think that is going to change the way we do infection prevention. It's an electrochemical process based on diamond electrodes, and it's very simple. Water comes in, we apply electricity, and water with ozonated water comes out. Ozone is extremely powerful and much stronger than bleach, for instance, 100 times more effective and faster at acting than bleach. It doesn't, compared to gas, it doesn't actually provide any side effects of the gaseous ozone that is also regulated, and is already FDA approved for direct contact with food as a grass, generally recognized as safe. So it can be used on fruit and vegetables and meat and other surfaces everywhere. As I said, it's eco-friendly, kind of turns back down to oxygen and water without leaving any chemical residue behind. It doesn't use any resistance to for the bacteria. It's being an oxidizer as much as bleach is. The bacteria doesn't have the chance to develop a resistance to ozone, and it's been already established that it's actually safe against on the skin and direct contact with people. We have a technology that does. We have a patent pending, a couple of patents pending on the technology, And shortly we will come out with products that will solve hopefully some issues in the market. Like next slide, please. Some of the markets that we are targeting actually are high risk for infections, like surfaces in common high crowded places like gyms, or can be the schools and common communal places. We're going to target food safety with the restaurants and commercial applications. Eventually, we're going to go with hand wash. Hopefully, we can have these technology be recognized as a possible hand sanitizer as well. In some application, it's already been applied as a sterilizer for medical tools. So we want to use ozonated water now as a way to sterilize medical tools in critical environments at the hospital. And of course, to kind of bring this technology down to a low-cost device that can be used at the residential level. So we have a series of ideas on how we want to implement this technology. And most of them, we want to do it in collaboration, in development, joint development with the companies that might have already some access to some applications, and they want to develop with us other new products, maybe an appliance or a sanitizing sink or something like that, that we can integrate our technology into. And yeah, so it's very short presentation. Kind of my slide, kind of next slide is actually my contact info. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Donato. I'm submitting this question in the chat, but it was a question I was going to ask about your engagement with MHub. So you've been working with another innovation center here in our region. So I'm wondering if you could just share a little bit about that experience and what it's helped, how it's helped build the business, and what else you need.
MHub has been a great place, on different levels. So from the point of view of really stressing out also kind of our value proposition and make sure actually we have our presentation deck kind of that makes sense, and then our business model that works. They really helped me with that. On the other hand, the MHub has the ability to give us access to manufacturing capabilities. They have a tremendous manufacturing floor for fast prototyping that allows us to really develop on a very fast pace the technology we want to develop at relatively low cost, without actually going around looking for special requirements, special manufacturers or suppliers. Mm-hmm. So 90% of the requirements for developing this technology is already here in-house.
Great. And what are you looking for at the next stage of the business development?
Well, right now we are a little bit on a stealth mode. So sorry for actually not showing you kind of the actual product itself. So we're trying to kind of keep it a little bit under the radar. But we want to push the development of this technology so that probably in the next couple of months we come out with our first prototype that will be presented at some point, possibly in industries like food applications, most likely. Yeah, so we are searching for partners at this point that they see the advantage of having this technology incorporated into their products, that we can work together, either in food and beverage or sanitization aspect or hand wash and things like that. One thing that I want to do, particularly with these partners, is not just integrating our technology in an existing product. We want to work together to develop a unique solution, a unique product with them, so that we can satisfy problems that are right now not covered.
Great. Great. Well, we've already got one question to all the panelists, so I'm going to go ahead and thank Donato. That was terrific. And we're going to move to our final presenter for the day, Len Bland, the CEO of Nanogas. Len, take it away.
Hi, my name is Len Bland. I'm the CEO of Nanogas. We believe in leaving mankind a better place than when we left it. And we're doing that with our special technology. If you go on to the next slide. So one of the biggest challenges we recognized was that the oil industry, which is suffering right now, has a huge changeable cost. And that cost is how much it costs them to dispose of the water. If you could, well, how much does it cost them to dispose of the water? And in the oil industry, there are, for each barrel of water, each barrel of oil that the oil industry pumps out of the well, they actually, in the US, they pump out 7 barrels of water. And so that's 70 million barrels of water per day in the US and over 300 million barrels of water per day worldwide. Each barrel has to they have to get rid of it. It's not drinkable, it's full of salt, 10 times saltier than the ocean a lot of times. And so they dispose that water, and they'll pay a disposal cost. They'll pay somebody to dispose it, or they'll build a big disposal unit to shove it back down into the ground. That's causing earthquakes, and so that's creating issues. But even without that, disposal might cost 60 to 80 cents a barrel. Yet when they give that water to a disposal well, it still has some oil in it, sometimes as much as, we heard in Oklahoma, as much as 10%. Here, if it had 1% of oil in it, and oil were $60 a barrel, that'd be another 60 cents. At $30 a barrel, it's 30 cents. And then if the oil industry is doing drilling, which they're taking a hiatus from right now, but if they're doing drilling, then they're buying fresh water, and they're using fresh water when they could be using the water they're pulling out of the ground. And so all that can add up to as much as $2 a barrel of water. If there's 7 barrels of water, that's $14 per barrel of oil. So you can see how these low prices, that can have a huge impact. The one site we visited where they produce 2,000 barrels of oil per day, that could be $100 million in annual water costs. Next slide. Next slide. So what we do is we take their water, we clean it up, we recover the oil. Click again, please. So we mix gas and water into our nano gas technologies machine, and that creates nanobubbles. Click again. We mix that with the dirty water coming out of the wells. It's called produced water. And click again. That goes into a treatment tank. One more time. I wasn't planning. I thought these were going to be. And we get, the cool thing that happens is the nanobubbles stay in solution, and they cause chemical reactions as well as physical reactions, so that suspended solids, the dirt and geology from the well, drop down. Those are removable. The oil rises to the top, and the water comes out the middle, and that becomes reusable as well. So it has a potential to eliminate these saltwater disposal wells that are causing earthquakes, while it saves the oil industry money, while we clean up our environment, because we're not using as much of the fresh water. Go on, please. Now, we saw that it works so well in separating even some really nasty emulsions of oil and water. We said this should work in an oil well. And so we tested an oil well. We doubled the production of the oil well over a 2-month period. And that's just by putting the nanobubbles of gas in solution. The nanobubbles stay in there. So you're used to thinking about your regular bubbles bubbling up out of the water. Well, these bubbles are so small, they're less than the surface tension liquid. They stay in, they multiply the amount of gas in the liquid, and that's why we're seeing this kind of increase in production. Here we could be using methane or nitrogen or carbon dioxide nanobubbles. For treating the water, we might be using air or nitrogen. Go ahead, please. And so by treating the water, we think a fair price to charge the customer is something like 40 cents a barrel. So if they're paying $2, maybe in this market they're paying $1.50 a barrel to get rid of their water. That's a huge savings for them, and at the same time our cost of goods sold might be only 5 cents. And so we're looking at a potential to have $2 million in revenues per year at a 15,000 barrel per day location, with just a 5-month payback. Go ahead. So we're talking to the oil industry around the world, from saltwater disposal wells in the US, where we're working hard in Texas. We've done oil well stimulation in Oklahoma, wastewater reuse, and we even have a grant on using CO2 to test growing algae faster. In the Middle East, we're talking with a major prospect on 6 different uses, from improving their oil well, wastewater reuse, even bioremediation, taking oily sands, cleaning it up, and creating a cleaner environment. And then we have another prospect we're talking to in Southeast Asia. They're a major oil company, and they've got a site where they have 200,000 barrels of water a day. Their problem is they can't get enough. They can't remove enough oil from it to release it into the environment, or they're setting new standards and they won't be able to. And we took it down to non-detect, no oil left. Go ahead. Next slide. Oh, there we go. Now, we've been focused on the oil industry. Great. We've been focused on the oil industry, but what we really have here is a platform technology. These nanobubbles could be used for all kinds of uses, whether it's municipal wastewater treatment, agriculture, or aquaculture. And in fact, as oil slows down right now, we're pursuing these other industries, increasing the amount of dissolved oxygen at a wastewater treatment plant. We're pursuing increasing the dissolved oxygen for fish to grow more fish. We've got some serious interest in Norway for that. And we are also pursuing using ozone nanobubbles, which stay in solution, and so none of the energy to create them is wasted, for medical sanitation. Next slide. So thank you very much. My name is Len Bland. I'm with Nanogas Technologies, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Great. Thank you so much, Len. That was a fascinating sweep through a lot of different applications of that technology. Can you talk about some of the challenges you found at this particular stage of growth of the business and how you've addressed them? Like, what are some of the things that are stumbling blocks right now?
Yeah, so, the slowdown in the oil industry is particularly troublesome because we felt like we were poised the price of oil was kind of in a sweet spot. At $50 or $60, the oil industry needs to do something to lower their costs, and so they're open to ideas. At $20 or less, they're not open, they're shutting down everything they possibly can, and they're not listening to anybody. So we had several prospects lined up that put us on hold. But we have some others that are popping up in the oil industry, but we said we can't sit around and wait for oil to come back. And so we decided, let's look at some of the other target markets that we could go after, and let's continue. We've had things like removing the stink from sewers by treating the H2S as it's going down the sewer. Things like aerobic digestion and wastewater treatment, things like getting more oxygen to fish, where you get fish kills all the time because they're not getting enough oxygen. So we're targeting those now.
Great. Thank you so much. So we have a couple of questions that are for all of our innovators today. And I want to invite everybody to respond to these. So the first one, how have you been collaborating with Chicagoland or Illinois-based colleges and universities for this research and work? Have they given you space, funding, talent? I'd love to understand more about your sort of engagement with the university ecosystem here in our city and state.
Alina, I can speak to that. With regards to Ensaras, we've worked very closely with enterprise work at Research Park in Champaign. And received proof of concept funding from them for the, they have an AWARE program over there, which we were the first, one of the first recipients of proof of concept funding for that. We've really benefited from the advisors and the advisory program there. We received support services to apply for the SBIR program through Enterprise Work. We've hired interns through Enterprise Works. Our chief scientist, he's, as I mentioned, professor at the University of Illinois, and also involved in the DPI Institute. So we've really benefited from the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the Chicagoland area.
Yes, and broader, that's great to hear. And University of Illinois, a critical founding partner of ours at Current, and I know a partner with Evan Chicago Next as well. So it's great to hear that. Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in on how they've engaged with the university ecosystem?
I can talk a little bit. No, go ahead, Slade.
Hey, Shay, go ahead.
Oh, okay, just a quick one. Some of our machine learning models and data science we perform on the data we receive is actually done out of UIC. So a few PhD students out there that we've been working with and a professor there. So super helpful, especially since this early we can't afford that much brain power to pay on the team. So it's been pretty helpful, amazing resource for us.
You know, we've had involvement with a number of different universities. First of all, Oakton Community College and Northwestern University. One of the huge challenges for us with the nanobubbles is actually being able to measure them. There's now, they're smaller than the wavelength of light, so you can't use a normal microscope. But now there's new microscopy technology that Northwestern has that we trained on using at Oakton Community College. That's been very helpful. And then there was an interesting program at UIC that we were asked to participate in, and we did, where it's an entrepreneurial program for students to analyze a company and put together recommendations on how they might help. We asked for help on what if we decide to pursue international markets, what would be good, and what, you know, let's look at a particular country or market and how would you suggest we penetrate that? And so we got a chance to work with the students on that.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, speaking of students, there's a question here from a recent graduate, an environmental science grad, and wondering how to get involved, understanding that all of you are, you know, startups and at different stages of kind of growing your businesses, but what are some of the skills you might be looking for in your new employees? And what are some of the ways that you'd suggest that recent grads kind of connect and reach out to businesses like yours?
You know, we're in Nanogas is in a fundraising mode right now. We're raising $7 million for the company, and once we do that, we may have openings for experienced people and graduates. And that's really when to engage with us when that fundraising is complete. We've looked at working with both students and people coming on. I'll tell you the number one way that we're working with people now is we have experienced industry people that are working with us for an owner share of the business instead of a salary. And we're always willing to listen to people that are willing to work on that basis.
So I've actually just sent a private message to Ume. I hope that's we have a specific problem that can be a sort of a packaged project she could help us on. And I think that's probably the best approach. Based on your understanding of the company, if you're interested, find a problem that you see or ask them for a problem that you can solve with them. And you never know what it'll turn into. We found it's worked really well for us. Just clarity of the problem and your overlap with your ideas of how you can help them solve it. So.
Mm-hmm. Great. That's great advice.
At the University of Illinois, we've participated in like startup career fairs where we'll have like you know, a booth and talk to students who are interested in in working for a startup, and also we'll post our job postings on the Research Park at Enterprise Work Bulletin Board, or the Urbana, the Champaign Small Business also has a similar job posting board that we've used. So we tend to try and advertise through those to have a wider reach when we have positions.
Mm-hmm. Great, that's great. Eben, I don't know, do you want to mention the resume book project that Chicago Next has put together here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in collaboration with our university partners, we've realized the real pain point of on-campus recruiting that totally collapsed. And so we have our existing Think Chicago program. We were really focused on working with University of Chicago, IIT, University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, UIC, and many others to have a proactive initiative to engage students and to let them know this is how you can navigate a really difficult job market and connect with tech companies who are hiring. So what we're doing on an ongoing basis is scanning the ecosystem to understand which companies are hiring in 2020 and to make sure they're directly connecting with those universities. And to learn more about that, and if you want to partner with that, especially if your company is hiring, please visit thinkchicago.net.
Yes, please do that. And please join us in thanking our presenters today. This was a fantastic and totally diverse group that is so representative of the kind of ingenuity and innovation that is coming out of Chicago and Illinois' blue economy. So it was fantastic to hear from, everything from how can we get fewer earthquakes to better public health and improved management of our major public utilities, less energy, all of that. I think you can get a sense of how heterogeneous the problem solving capacity and firepower we have is, and how many different kinds of ecosystem players it takes to help build and nurture these businesses. So we are happy to play a small part in that, excited to partner with Chicago Next, and look forward to bringing you more of these Innovator Showcase Series events in the future. How you can stay engaged with us, in addition to some of the work that Chicago Next has laid out, Current has a couple of opportunities coming up. We have our event on May 13th. We're going to be doing a fireside chat with New York Times bestselling author Seth Siegel, talking about his book Troubled Water and what we can do to sort of improve access to clean, safe drinking water across the country, but also here in our region. And also we're open to thinking about collaborative events. So if you have an idea for a virtual event that you'd like to do, that's part of this effort to build Chicago and Illinois' blue economy, we'd love to hear from you. So George Burgandy is our wonderful partnerships and events manager. He is so much the power behind an event like this one today, and you can get in touch with him. His email's on the screen. That QR code will take you directly to other events that we've got in the pipeline as we are working to develop more opportunities to stay connected and engaged in this virtual world. And so we'd love to hear from you. We are excited to have such a diverse array of participants on the line today, from recent grads to VCs and investors who are out scouting for the next big investment. So just really thrilled to have you all. This video will be shared and posted online. You can refer back to it at any time, and we will see you next time for the next Innovator Showcase. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.